Welcome back, everybody. In this video, I've got my old turbo here to fix my new turbo. So if you guys have been following along, or probably most of my posts have been on social media, you know, I replaced or upgraded the turbo in my Forester, and I'm overboosting right now. So I have figured it must be the spring inside the wastegate. So what I'm gonna do to hopefully fix that, since I never had any issues with this, and the pressured spring in here is supposed to be the same as my new one. So I'm gonna pop this one out, and that's just to show that you don't need to buy a new one if you do have an old one laying around, or there is a way to actually get inside these and change the spring instead of just replacing this whole thing. So when this thing's hooked up, obviously you've got the 2 bolts in there, but this is not in a car. So we have this 2 bolts come out, and the first thing I'm gonna do, just to play with this separately, I need to detach it from the turbo so it's hooked up to the arm that goes down to the little flapper here, which closes that off. You've got this little horseshoe clip that's on here. I've got to take that off. I'm gonna try needle nose. If needle nose doesn't work, then I've got a nice little tool over here that takes these off. So that clip's got to come off. As soon as that comes off, it'll just pop right out. Might be a little struggle because this is kind of rusty. So it looks like just a little bit of coaxing from my tiny little flat head here and pushing this out is the best way to get this. I've almost got it totally popped out, but I was just gonna show you guys that's what I'm using, just a small flathead. And super simple. There's the pin that was holding it in, came right out of there. Now that I've got the wastegate separated, here it is in its glory. You're gonna see up here, this is how we get into it. So there's, if you look at the bottom, that's one piece. So this bottom part is wrapped around to the top. So what I've got to do, you can actually see a little lip over here. What we're gonna have to do is fit something flat. I've got a few things over here I'm gonna try. I'm thinking a flathead's probably gonna be my best idea. And I'm gonna stick it right in here and start prying all the way around. I've seen this done before and it works. Once you put it back together, you just have to kind of put something flat under here and hammer it down. There's a rubber ring that goes around the inside of this, like a little diaphragm, and as long as there's some pressure pushing down on it, which is what this crimping here does, you're gonna be fine. It's not going to leak anything. So I'm gonna get right up in here and start working around this thing.
Perfect, 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 perfect.
Okay, so after going along the edge, like you just saw, the top comes out of here, and it looks like this is the rubber piece that goes all the way around that makes the seal. So with the top portion off of there, now all we have to do is get the whole thing out. And it is pretty simple. On the inside you can see there's that black bit in there, and on the outside you'll normally have this. It's like a pinched piece that'll stop it. Once that piece hits that black part on the inside, you just have to pull it, maybe twist it a little bit to get loose, and there you go. You can get this pulled through. Now, to get it all the way through, I'm gonna have to take out this extremely, extremely rusted bit on here, and hopefully that's not going to destroy this whole thing, because I just need the spring that's inside here. There it goes. There we go. And now we have this. So now I'm trying to figure out how this comes off, because with that crimped piece there that stops, it goes into a funnel down here. There's no way of taking that out. There's no locking area. So I'm guessing the only way without breaking it to get this spring off, I'm gonna try to have to bend the spring on the outside of this and just twist it off. So it keeps unraveling itself up top like that, and it should just come over the top of it without bending it in a really bad way. And that was actually a lot easier. I could have just kept filming that and just spinned it right out. So there you go. This is the stock spring that comes, it's supposed to be 8 pounds. I'm gonna try to figure out a way to test that out, but I know for a fact this one is quite a bit lighter than the one that's in there, because even with all this stuff put together, I could grab the bottom and pull it out. The new one, very difficult to do that. So whatever springs in my new one is way too stiff. So I'm just gonna swap this one. Hopefully it's gonna be the same setup on the inside, so I can just do the exact same thing, screw that new one in there, put it all back together. But that might be too easy, and it's probably gonna be something completely different, and it's gonna screw with me. Now, to remove the one that's in the car is gonna be more of a pain in the butt. Obviously, we've got to take the vacuum hose off of there, and there's 3 bolts on here, which I'm sure I can get something, a socket, and get those off. But the issue is, the top is not where that little horseshoe is. It's actually underneath. So I'm gonna try to get this off and then swing this around to the side, so I'll actually be able to get under there and look exactly where it is and hopefully pop it out and then not lose it. Okay, so here we are back inside, and I have successfully removed the wastegate that was currently on my turbo. It's really a pain in the butt when it's already installed. I wish I would have done this beforehand, but I had no idea that the spring in here was stiffer. I can't even pull that all the way back. So hopefully the inside of this is going to be the same as the one I have over here, my old one. Time to do the same thing. And hopefully it's the same. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Come on! Okay, this one was a lot harder than the last one. This one is definitely made out of a harder metal, and it was a pain in the butt to bend the edges out like I did the last one, but I ended up doing it, so it's out. And my fingers hurt and they're smashed. So if we take this out, as far as it goes, right back here is a flat at the end, and it's not like the other one to where I would be able to pull it through. Well, I guess the other one was crimped, so either way, that's definitely not coming out that way. And this one is actually a little bit different than the one that I have, whereas on here, the diaphragm up in here is attached through the inside here. I guess it's like clamped on the inside, but that's how that works. You can even open this up and plug it and tell that it still works. It still holds the air. So that's pretty cool, seeing how that works. But we need to get the spring out, and there's no way to take the top or the bottom off, so what we're gonna do is find the end of the spring, so right here, and then we're gonna grab it around the inside rod and twist it out just like we did the other one, but we're gonna do it from the inside just to get it detached. The first part, just getting it started, that's the hard part. I've got the tip started to go through the middle, and now I just need to twist it and it'll come all the way through. And there we are, just like that. Second spring is out. More of a pain in the butt than the original. Well, I just got back from the hardware store and I could not find a spring that is anywhere near these size or these pressure. The best one I could find is a tiny 1-pound spring. So it looks like what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to make this a softer spring. And the only way I can think of doing that is by cutting it down and then stretching it out so it has less coils and less total metal that's on here. So I'm gonna start probably with 1 or 2 just by cutting it off and then getting some pliers and stretching it out, and that should make the compression a little bit lighter. And bam, this is what I get afterwards. Of course, measure it before so you can measure it afterwards. This spring is 2.5 inches, and the other spring that I had in my last turbo, the TD04, that one is a 3-inch spring, and this one's 2.5, so after I cut off this little bit over here, I had to stretch it back out as evenly as I could to get back to 2.5 inches. So I doubt this will help anything because I have terrible luck, but I hope, I pray, maybe it'll work. Okay, so now that I have it in here, I didn't change springs, so it's the same diameter. It's gonna fit in there just like it did before. Seated properly. And now I just have to slip the top back over because I actually didn't open up this entire thing. You can see right here is still flat. I was able to slip it out just like that. So now I've got to put it back right where it was before, and I'm sure this is gonna take forever, but I have to slip that in first and then get some pliers and smash the edge around until it holds it in, then get a hammer and smack it around the side. So when putting this back together, I definitely have to make sure that the vacuum line here is pointed back in the same direction, and I can tell by the scratches because there was a part that I didn't really touch a whole lot, but for reference, this is gonna be lined up with the long side for mine, so make sure you do mark that on yours before you do this. But now that I have this in place, I basically have to go around and I'm gonna tap the insides just so I can get that lip that kind of comes in a little bit, and then I can put it down on something and actually smash it together. So now that I've gone around, you can see the lip has definitely come in. I'm sure I can test it out right now and move this back and test, but all I need to do now to get this where I really want it, it works right now, but it's not flat. All I have to do is put something like on the edge of my table right here, and then just get the hammer and smack on the top of this to flatten it out. All right, so I got everything installed and I kind of went a different route. I'm kind of far away right now because it's really loud, but the actuator, I used the TD04, I used the old one. I was gonna put in the new one with the new spring, But I figured out when I was trying to put it together, I put the actuator arm on first, so I attached it over here, and then I tried to bolt it in. And when I tried to bolt it in, I noticed I had to go almost all the way open just to get there. So when I'm wide open throttle, the plunger would probably be only open that much. It couldn't swing all the way open. So I'm guessing that was my issue. Whoever made this turbo fudged up on that one. So I've got the old one on here. This is my jankiness right here. I got the arm, I bent it a little bit, and I just got a screw on the underside, put it through, got a locking washer on here, so whenever this opens up, it can open up fully and get this thing opened up, instead of where it was before. I had to put it so far forward that when the arm was all the way open, it would only come out about that far. That was probably the biggest issue for that overboosting problem, and this is obviously a temporary solution, but I have everything all buttoned up here, and this arm opens up. It's the 8-pound spring that was in there, so I shouldn't have any issues with the spring. So the only thing I have to deal with is if this thing is going to open up all the way, and if it does, then I'm not going to overboost. If I underboost, that's not an issue at all, because if I underboost, then I can do that with tuning. All right, so I've got a nice open road now. I'm gonna give it a little bit just to see if anything explodes, and then a little bit more just to see if we get that fuel cut and overboost. It's not too bad. That was 16 pounds. I mean, that's up near the top, and that was about half throttle. So I don't really like that. As long as it maintains that for open throttle, I'll be 100% fine, if that's how it works out. Woo! All right, that was foot to the floor. We got 18 pounds. Woo! Now, I didn't go all the way up to the top of the rev limiter on that one, though. But this is looking much more promising. Yay, Subaru Turbo. So because I was using my phone, it overheated because it's like ridiculously hot outside. It's over 100 degrees. But anyway, long story short is I am now making about 18 PSI wide open throttle, and it's not 23 anymore. So, I mean, it's not as fast, but I'm also not getting the fuel cut, and it's much, much better for the car so it doesn't explode, because it's, you know, it's not built for that. It's not set up for that. It turns out it probably could have been partly due to the spring, but the biggest thing is how it was installed. Whoever had it installed before, that arm was already stretched out and that diaphragm was opened up quite a lot already. So it really didn't have much play when it needed to open up the valve on the inside for boost pressure in the turbo. So thanks, guy, that I got that from. That's wonderful, but I fixed it with the OEM turbo actuator, wastegate actuator. So many big words. I feel so smart for saying them all.